Hello, my name is Monika Voglgruber. It's a little bit strange to pronounce because it's a typical German name. I'm responsible here at the Belvedere in Vienna for the press department, for communication and for new media, all what it means to be in the digital world present. In usual, we speak of 5 purposes of a museum. At first, we are interested to show exhibitions. This is the part the people see the most. Then we try to, we are convinced to educate the people, the visitors of a museum, to inform about the backgrounds, about the histories behind the art pieces. The ground for the exhibitions and for the educations is the research. We have our own research center here at the Belvedere. And then 2 purposes are to invite the collection. This means that we buy art pieces from contemporary art, but as well from older art, and to restaurate the art pieces we are responsible for. The Belvedere is one of the oldest museums in the world. It's located in the center of Vienna, the capital of Austria, and it's very near of the center and near of the main station of Vienna. It's a huge ensemble, a Baroque ensemble built in the 18th century from Prince Eugen, and it was bought from the Empress Maria Theresia. And Maria Theresia was the one who made it at first. It was one of the first museums of the world. In the 18th century, the Belvedere started to be the official museum of the Imperial of Austria, of the Imperial of the Habsburg Maria Theresia. We have three parts here at the Belvedere. The most famous part is the Upper Belvedere. It's the touristic center here with the painting of Klimt and the collection of Klimt paintings. The most famous one is the Kuss, or the Kiss in English. And then we have the Lower Belvedere. There we have changing exhibitions, not only from our collection, but also from foreign collection or collections from other museums. The exhibitions have always special subjects, like we start in 2 weeks Klimt and the Antique, or about the 300th anniversary of Maria Theresia. And then we have our contemporary part of the museum. It's called 21er Haus in German, or 21st House in English. This is the contemporary place where we show contemporary positions from the beginning after the Second World War until today. The main seasons here at the Belvedere are the summertime, of course, July and August. Also the Christmas time from October until the end of December and the beginning of January. And the third season is the Eastern season in the springtime. We attract per year 1,003,000 visitors. Most of the visitors in the Upper Belvedere are from foreign countries. Here is leading the part from Italy, but we also have a lot of Asian visitors from Korea or from Japan, for example. The most attractive piece are the Baroque ensemble at all, and of course the collection of Klimt, and especially the Kiss from Klimt. Here in Vienna we have a lot of museums, and we are convinced that the museum has social relevance, because you can learn about the history of your country, about not only about the art, but also about the backgrounds, the social backgrounds, the political backgrounds, the environmental backgrounds, and the historical backgrounds about the art, your country, and foreign artists and foreign countries. It's a very pity when you don't have a lot of time when you came to the Belvedere, but because we have to offer very much. The most attractive point, of course, is the Upper Belvedere, with the huge Baroque ensemble and the collection of Klimt paintings, especially the painting The Kiss, but also the painting of Schiele, Kokoschka, and so on. A further focus of our collection are Biedermeier and the Baroque, the culture and the art of Baroque. And yes, just go through the castle, just go through the gardenings, to the ensemble, and enjoy the time here at the Belvedere. The future of the museum I see at the digital dimension. That means for us that we are not just a physical museum, but you can also have a look to our museum in the digital world. Before your visit, before you came to the Belvedere, or at the time where you are here, or after your visit. You can get information, you can see the art pieces you have been here, and we at the moment we are developing a new concept for a new digital dimension of the Belvedere. We try to combine the different positions of art history or of art in general. For example, here we have the Baroque Museum, the Upper Belvedere, with the huge Baroque gardening. At the moment you can see in front of the Upper Belvedere the Fett House from Erwin Wurm. It's a very famous contemporary artist of Austria. And so we try to connect the positions of Baroque architecture and modern modern art, contemporary art. Erwin Wurm has at the moment an exhibition at the 21er House, which is the contemporary part of the Belvedere, and so we try to connect or to lead the people from the Upper Belvedere to the 21er House, to the contemporary art. We understand us like an art service institution in a special kind. We try to serve our visitors in every demand. That means from the ticketing, from the information before they visit the Belvedere, to the stay here directly at the Belvedere, that it is as convenient as it can be. It's from the gastronomy, from the restaurants you have here in the museum, from the informations you get about the history, about the backgrounds of the art, and it leads to the service after your visit here at the Belvedere. You can have informations online or written about the Belvedere, and our aim is that we create a community from people. They have been at the Belvedere and they will be with us also a long time after their visit. There are two stakeholders for the Belvedere. At first are the tourists. This a huge percentage, near 80% at all, and the visitors from Vienna. And we distinguish between these both stakeholder groups. For the tourists, we are working together with a tourist department here in Vienna, in Austria, and all over the world. And for the visitors from Vienna, we use different marketing tools, like printed tools and tools online, to get the visitors to the Belvedere. And our aim is to get more visitors from Vienna to the Upper Belvedere, to the Klimt collection, and to go more often to our museum. The contemporary part of Belvedere, the 21er House, is a social hotspot here in the city, where the young art community go and will meet together. For our young visitors, we offer special education programs between the age of 3 years until you are an adult, I will say. These are programs for school classes, or also for young people, or when you want to be here for paintings and workshops. And we offer also for young people until the age of 19, they don't have to pay entrance to our museum. And this is a high attraction for young people, or also for families to visit us at the weekends or also during the week. The Belvedere has around 250 employees in the different departments. We have departments from the curators, from the research center, restoration, education department, communication, marketing, events, of course. And when you are interested, you just have to apply. I don't know, we don't have so much employees from foreign countries, but we are open to everyone. At first I will speak about the Winter Ballet. It's the fourth place of the Belvedere here in Vienna. It's directly in the center of the city. And it was also built from Prince Eugen. It was his place, his house for the winter time, and the Belvedere with the garden was the house for the summertime, the summer residence. At the time of Prince Eugen, the Belvedere ensemble was quite outside of the city, and the Winter Ballet was in the center of the city, in the inner circle of the city. The Winter Ballet will be closed at the end of October 2017. And the last exhibition you can see there is about Sobieski, a Polish king in Vienna, and it will start at the 7th of July. At the other places of the Belvedere we have following exhibitions. At the Lower Belvedere we will have Maria Theresa and the art, her connection to the art, to the contemporary artist of her time. She was a very progressive mentor of artists at her time. Then we have at the Orangerie Klimt and Antiquity. There we show the connection between Klimt and how he related to antiquity motifs, for example, in his art. And in the contemporary part of the Belvedere, at the 21er Haus, we will have Erwin Wurm. I have already mentioned him with the Fett House in the garden of Belvedere. In the 21er Haus, he has a show under the title Performative Sculptures. And we also, this exhibition from Erwin Wurm will start today and will keep until the 10th of September. And then we also show a show from the own collection, from the contemporary collection of Belvedere, under the title Specular Windows. It will show the relation between you and the world. Yes, that's our summer program.
Test. Was sage ich jetzt für eine Zahl? 27.
Moment. So, my name is Fuchs. I'm Chief Curator and Deputy Director here in the Museum of Modern Art Ludwig Foundation in Vienna, in the Mumok. My role is I'm responsible for the exhibition department, for the publication, for the exhibition and publication management. So for those departments in the museum which are responsible for the content of the exhibition program and all of the scientific program, symposia and that kind of stuff. As a chief curator, I'm responsible for my department as a whole, including the curators, my colleagues from the curator staff, from the exhibition management and from publication management. To form a team, to develop a program together with the director, who is the head of the whole museum, the general director, but also to communicate with the other departments, which means the education department, the marketing department, the press office, the bookkeeping office. There are different fields and departments which have to work together to enable a kind of functioning of the museum. And my role is firstly to take care for the internal structures of my own department, and secondly, which has the same importance, to keep on the communication with other departments, to overview all different fields and to enable a kind of teamwork, which is important. It doesn't make sense just to concentrate on one aspect, one group of, in the museum, but you always have to see the whole structure at the same time, also to work in your field adequately. I think this is important. So the Mumok, Museum of Modern Art Ludwig Foundation, is in Vienna, the capital of Austria, and it is a museum which contains art since modernism until contemporary art. We have a collection as well as special presentations, exhibitions. The main aspects of our collection include pop art, American pop art, hyperrealism, works from Viennese actionism, which is very important for the international contextualization of Austrian art. It's an art tendency or a kind of works of art from the 60s and 70s until nowadays. And we have also a part of classic modern art, big part, which is also one of the main points, references in our collection. Just to give you an idea, to be more concrete about the collection and the special presentations. At the moment we have a presentation which was curated by a young artist from Vienna, Jakob Knebel, and we can see works from different periods, from modernism until contemporary times, but under very specific perspectives, conceptualized by these artists. So this is a kind of feminist oriented exhibition. It's not a show about masterpieces in a chronological order, but it's a more critical exhibition on modern art and contemporary art, seen from this very personal perspective of the artist curator herself. And at the same time, for instance, you see an exhibition from feminist avant-garde art, which is quite exciting because it concludes works, photographs, mainly photographs, films from the 60s and 70s of the 20th century, showing a lot of feminist approaches, feminist concepts in the arts, which were very important at that time, but not adequately received. So it was a main task of our museum to bring this kind of art to the forth, to make it visible, to show it to the public. That is what we are basically doing. We try to give new perspectives on older art or on contemporary art, and to show different kinds, different styles of art from new perspectives. Not to put them in chronological order only, but to figure out certain notions, certain themes which are very crucial, and then to orientate the works according to these notions, so that may give new insights and new perspectives on art history as such. We are especially proud about our cinema. We have a special program almost every week on Wednesday, a cinema program, where we show the interconnections between film, video and fine arts, because a lot of contemporary artists, but not only contemporary artists, of course, also artists in modernism, were concerned with media, with film and photography. So these were always very important media topics which influenced and also steered the development of the different, of more conventional fields of art too. So it's a discursive program, which means that we are not only showing films, but we give also place for discussions, for symposias, showing that art is a kind of discursive fact, not only existing in visual acts, but always accompanied by theory, by thoughts and by history. And what we try to show is how these different fields are interfering and give together a kind of view of the whole. So that's important for us. For we consider ourselves as a discursive museum. The library plays a very important role in the whole structure of the museum. We have a huge library. We are all the time taking care for new publications, including them in the collection of the library. We use our exhibition program, our scientific program, to enlarge also our library, the mediatheque, the videotheque which is there, and to give the possibility to the audience, but also to students, to come to the Mumok and to make their research work here with the help of this kind of publications. Because publications have always been very important, not only since the 60s and 70s from conceptual art, but also before. There was always an interference between the theory of art and the practice. And that means that you have to take care for this production of theory, of texts, very subtle, and always to put it together with art itself, so to get a more compound view on art history. We have a special educational program for children, not only for children, but for different group of children, for younger ones, older ones, for the pupils from schools. So that's very important for us, because we consider ourselves as a kind of educational institution. We are not a commercial, but an educational institution, seeing ourselves in the tradition of enlightenment. That means that we are responsible for a question of culture politics and for education as a whole. And it's quite important to take care for the young generation, which is also the coming generation. And art needs to be explained too, especially those kind of art which is more on a theoretical level. And we really emphasize this kind of educational program to be accessible also for different group of people and children. That's very important for us. That's a good question, the digital age and the role of the museums. So this kind of digitalization and information and internet and the different kind of social networks also changes the facilities of the museum work somehow. which means that the public is in some aspects more accessible than before. You can reach different groups of people easier, you can reach them more often. So from that perspective, concerning the work for the public and media, it's quite exciting, and it's also concerning the programs. That's a quite important question, development, because art changes. Artists, especially younger artists, are using different media which are more actual. They're working with internet, they're working with computer. That's a kind of post-internet development, or however you can call it. So that plays a very important role, which changes also the notion of art, also the ways of presentation of art, because now there's a lot of virtual simulation art, not mixed up with different kind of materiality. By the way, also the notion of materiality changes in the course of this digitalization. That's quite an important challenge for all of the museums, and we have to adapt to this, and we have to get to this kind of people who are into these technologies, to learn from them, to be able to act also in a more public way with this kind of mediatization. So we have to be aware of a different group of people who are not that much interconnected, maybe with internet or other information educational systems, and we have to take care also of those ones, so that they are also able to visit the programs and to see the exhibitions. So what we are doing therefore is, for instance, we have a program especially for migrants and refugees, taking care that their society is restructuring itself. There are new group of people with new abilities, new necessities. It's a process of learning also for the institutions like museums like us, to take care to be able to integrate also this kind of people into our educational program, into our view on art and culture. That's very important. So I think that especially museums of our type have this kind of task to take part in this integration of new groups of people. That's quite important. And also one possibility is also our program with the schools, so that enables us to get a lot of young people into the museum, also maybe of those families who normally have no access to cultural programs or educational programs. And I think that we in Austria as a whole have a very good developed and advanced educational system in schools, and very strong and close relationships between museums, especially public museums like ours, and schools as public institutions too. So that's very important to take care for this section of the society, and to continue the work we have in these fields. They have to define their relevance, I think, because there are different kinds of relevances. You can decide to be a more tourist museum or to be a more educational museum. There is some discrepancy in between these two functions, because the more you get into the tourist sections, the more you get also commercialized, which is a known thing. It's not to complain about this, but there is something in art which has to do with education, with science, with critique, with analysis, to enable the people to keep a high level of analytical, critical thinking. And we want to position ourselves also in those fields very strongly. So we consider art as a kind of philosophical tool, as a kind of critical tool also, at first, and not as a kind of commercial entertaining tool. That's quite important. I think it always depends on the directions of the museums and of the culture politic, of course, the politicians, the minister who decide about the directors and the leaders of the museum, how they consider the role of museums as public institutions, how much they are supporting them with public money, or how much they are asking them to get their money from private sponsorship, so that they are driven more into a commercial direction. This is a very, very exciting culture political discussion, which is going on everywhere internationally, not only here in Vienna, not only in the Mumok, but in the artwork as a whole, I think. And that's maybe one of the most important topics in museum and culture politics today, to define the role of the museums, to give them the possibility to continue their educational tasks, their discursive tasks, to see that art is not something which is only entertaining, but is also something which is a kind of working tool. You also have to learn and to inform you about. I think this is very important for the self-definition of the museums as such. It's very exciting to think about the interrelationship between contemporary art and older art. There is not a strict barrier in between, to be true, because what we are doing when we are looking at contemporary art, that in some senses we shape and change our kind of knowledge, and with this kind of knowledge we also focus the older art from a new perspective. So what we are doing, or we try to provide for the audience, is this kind of always reactivating the history, rewriting, reinterpreting the history, seeing it in a new way according to the contemporary possibilities. So seen from that point, we are always showing contemporary art, younger positions, and also works from the historical periods. But also always with the intentions to have a kind of dialogue in between them, so that the new art gives a new perspective on the old art, so to say, roughly, and the old art gives a more authority to the young art. And the museum, which is a place which is not only showing exhibitions, but also a place for collecting art, is a perfect place to enable this exchange between the different times and to keep on this dialogue between past and present. I always considered art as a kind of philosophical tool in the visual and material. So that means that art is a kind of focus on reality, which enables us to see reality from a distance, to see it in a different perspective, and to get new insights about reality. Also in the sense that enables us to keep on with a critical and analytical way of thinking. And I always thought, and that is my experience, that art is a tool for this kind of thinking and for this kind of consciousness. That's all.
Hello, my name is Irene Preißler. I'm responsible for the press activities of the MuseumsQuartier Wien. And I'm working in the MuseumsQuartier developing an operation company. And we are responsible for the whole area. I'm responsible for the press activities of the MuseumsQuartier. So if there are, for example, events, I do a press release and send it to the Austrian journalists. So I inform the people outside, not only journalists, about what is going on here in the MuseumsQuartier. I'm also responsible for some of the of our brochures, for our MQ guide, which informs about the whole MuseumsQuartier. And yes, if there are some questions, I answer them. So things like that. The MuseumsQuartier Wien is one of the biggest cultural complexes for contemporary art in the world, located in the heart of Vienna. But it is not only an art space, it is as well an oasis of recreation in the city for the Viennese people. And this really makes the MuseumsQuartier very special, because you have here about 60 cultural institutions and initiatives, but it is as well a place where Viennese people as well as tourists come to sit down, to relax and to enjoy the great atmosphere here. The MuseumsQuartier has a long history. So because in former times the MuseumsQuartier, the area, there have been the imperial stables of the emperor. So the first plans for this area came from Emperor Charles VI in the 18th century. And the first and the oldest part of this complex comes from the time from 1725. So the long Baroque main facade has been opened in 1725. And then there have been some expansions, for example, at the beginning of the 19th century. And then after the First World War, there was no use any longer for the imperial stables. And the buildings have been used for commercial fairs for some times. But then they became too small for this, as though at the beginning of the 1980s there have been the first ideas to use this area here for a cultural project. In 1986 there have been an architectural competition, and the architects Lauritz and Manfred Ortner won this competition. And so they are responsible for the big new buildings. This is the Leopold Museum, it's a big white building. Then the Mumok, the Museum of Modern Art, this is the big black building. And so a little bit behind the hall ENG, there is the Kunsthalle Wien. So these are the big new buildings, and every other buildings you see here, they are original from the time from the 18th or the 19th century. All institutions located at the MuseumsQuartier are completely independent. So they have their own budgets, they have their own directors, they have their own marketing departments and things like that. The main task of our company, the MuseumsQuartier Operation and Developing Company, is to care about the whole area, to do is for at one time the whole facility management, like cleaning, security, renovation works and things like that. And very important task, marketing activities. So our task is as well to talk with the other institutions and to do with them, if it makes sense, to have projects together with them. So we have throughout the year a lot of cultural activities in the courtyards free of charge. You don't have to pay anything for this, and a lot of these projects are in cooperation with the other institutions. For example, this year at June 14th they will open the Summer of Movement, and all institutions located here at the MuseumsQuartier are part of this Summer of Movement. There will be about 120 events in the institutions as well as in the quartiers together with them, so that the visitors really have a broad range of activities, and they can decide what they would like to see, to do, to take part of it. At the MuseumsQuartier there are about 10 different restaurants. So you have from Viennese kitchen to also to different styles. You have some bars here, you have cafes here, whatever you like. So if you want, you can go to one of these restaurants, or if you don't want to consume anything, you also can, we have our famous furniture in the curtains. You also can sit down there, and if you would like, you can bring your own foods as well here. The MuseumsQuartier is open throughout the day. There are no opening hours, but sure, the different institutions, they have different opening hours. Concerning guided tours, you can do a guided tour through the area. You can book an MQ tour, and sure, there are a lot of guided tours in the institution through the different exhibitions. Furthermore, you have a lot of events in the quartiers. They are free of charge. For example, we have a lot of classic concerts. This year at June 14th there will be a big concert from the Viena Symphonica, really a big orchestra. Or for example, there will be a film festival in July and in August, every Friday and Saturday. There will be literature readings every Thursday. There will be a lot of dance performances. There will be, for example, in the morning there will be yoga or Tai Chi sessions or Zumba. So there will be a lot of attractions and performances throughout the year and through the whole summer. In the MuseumsQuartier Developing and Operating Company, we are about 40 people. And sure, for example, for things for facility management, for cleaning, things like that, or for security, we're working together with external companies. And if you would like to work here, you can send us your application, and then our employee who is responsible for this will answer you. I think people who come to the MuseumsQuartier, they will, on the one side, they expect culture, so they would like to go to to have cultural activities in the museums. And second, I think it is important for them also to have a place to relax, to sit down, and to meet, for example, here with friends, or to spend the time with the family here. Yes, online is sure very important. So sure, we are present on the social media, like for example Facebook, because on Facebook we can communicate directly with our visitors. So if they have a question, they can also post them on Facebook, and we will answer them directly. But sure, on the other side, if you would like to go in one of the museums, you can't only do an online. You can't do it only in an online way. You have to come here, and I think it is important not to do everything online, but sometimes you come here and also to communicate directly with the people. Yes, there are special programs for children. For example, the museum have different offers for children. For example, the Mumok has a special club for children, or in the Leopold Museum we have a kind of atelier for children, and we have 3 institutions especially and only for children. This is a children's museum called Zoom with exhibitions for children. Then we have a theater for children, it's called Dschungel Wien, and we have an information center, the Wien Extra Kinderinfo for children, and show them the workshops, for example, in our center for architecture. They have workshops where children can build small buildings wherever they would like to do. And we also have, for example, guided tour, especially for young people through our creative cluster, the Q 2021, for example, for school classes. I think the best thing concerning art is that you get in contact with a lot of people and you get to know different ideas, and this is very exciting because I'm in contact with artists from all over the world, and they all have new ideas, and this is really very exciting. And this is what art can do to bring people together and to exchange about new ideas.
No, but so quiet. Hello, bom dia. My name is Florian. I work for the Vienna Tourist Board, where I'm in charge of media relations for Brazil. So in my role at the Vienna Tourist Board, where I'm part of the international media relations team, it is my job to speak to international media representatives constantly, permanently, making sure that they get an up-to-date picture of Vienna, that they know what's new in the city, what's relevant in the city at any point of the year. When speaking to the media from all over the world, it is really our ambition to reflect, to give a balanced reflection of what Vienna is all about. We want to put forward Vienna as an imperial city. We also want to show cultural and musical attractions. At the same time, we would like to showcase Vienna, the green city, and show culinary pleasures in the city. Maybe overarching it all, we're always keen to show that Vienna is a modern, livable city. Summing it up, we are always on a mission to show a balanced but authentic and truthful picture of our city and make sure interested media representatives from all around the globe get a balanced and authentic and truthful view of what's happening in Vienna. I'm saying hello from Vienna. Vienna is the capital of Austria, a city which has just under 2 million inhabitants, making it a fairly compact city in Europe. Vienna has different sides and aspects. Vienna is a historical city, but at the same time it's a very modern, a very contemporary city. Vienna in 2017 was named the city with the highest quality of living in the whole world for the 8th time in a row. So we can say that Vienna awaits you with a great work-life balance, with a great lifestyle, with a very pleasant way of spending your time. Living in Vienna means having at your disposal great offerings in the areas of culture and music, to name one famous example. So if you live in Vienna, chances are that it will be part of your life, going to concerts, going to theatre plays, visiting a museum every now and then. So that is definitely something that has an impact on my life, something particular to Vienna that has an impact on my life and that affects me as a person. At the same time, Vienna is a very green city. 45% of Vienna's territory are actually green space. So that means that in Vienna you can also live a very life combined with nature, urban life combined with nature. You get to spend time outside, you get to enjoy the seasons, you get to relax in the green, which is quite special for a city of that size. So, what does it mean to be Viennese? Living in Vienna means living in a city that is located in the center of Europe, which of course has an impact on people's mentality. If you live in Vienna, you feel the influence, the impact of many different cultures that are close to or neighboring Vienna, thinking about Hungary, about Slovakia, about Czech Republic, Slovenia, Italy, Germany, which are all neighboring countries of Austria. You will find these influences having an impact on your day-to-day life, looking at Viennese cuisine, for instance, which has many influences from the countries I've just mentioned. You will also feel that there's many international people living in Vienna, visiting Vienna. It is quite a cosmopolitan place, and that again has an impact on your local life as a Viennese. So quiet.
When in Vienna, you absolutely have to try the Wiener Schnitzel, which is a kind of breaded veal that's typically served with potato salad.
It's an excellent dish that tastes great any season of the year. If you still have space after that, if you're still a bit hungry, you also might want to go for the famous Sachertorte, which is a famous chocolate cake. It's been around for quite some time, there's quite some tradition. If you do order the Sachertorte, for instance at the famous Sacher Hotel, which is where it's produced, do make sure that it comes with apricot jam, because that's the sign for it being an authentic and original Sachertorte. So, Vienna is great at infrastructure, at public transport, which is something very important for both the locals and the visitors, because it's easy to move around the city, it's cheap, it's efficient, you won't have to waste any time getting to where you actually want to go. And that is something where I'd say Vienna is really world leading, having an excellent network of public transport that is actually still being extended. We are waiting a new metro line that will be built from 2018. Still this year, in 2017, we will see the extension of several metro connections. So the city is really making sure that its inhabitants stay connected, speaking from a public transport point of view. And at the same time, this opens the opportunities, new opportunities for visitors who really get to explore lots of the city quite easily without a hassle. Thinking of what I could wish for, sometimes I might wish for just a bit more sunshine during the winter month in Vienna. But then again, I have to add that even in the colder, maybe a bit darker winter months, there's many great things that you can do in Vienna. You've got the Christmas markets, you've got the Viennese ball season, you've got more than 100 theaters and stages in Vienna. You've got fantastic museums that you can visit. So a bit more sunshine might be nice at times, even though nobody needs to worry. There's lots of great stuff to do, even when the sun is on a break. Something that makes Vienna really special is Vienna's status as what is sometimes actually called the capital of music, the world capital of music. Vienna has got an amazing history and contemporary life in the musical scene. Just to give you an idea, over the course of 1 year, around 15,000 concerts take place in Vienna. And that again means that every night around 10,000 lovers of music get to see concerts of just about every genre for every taste. Whenever you come to Vienna, wherever you go, chances are that you will be surrounded by music, that you will get a chance to enjoy music, to actually dive into music. And that, I think, is something that makes Vienna special and unique in the whole world. I very much like, of course, central Vienna, which is the historical old town of Vienna, the first district, which offers so much historical splendor, so much grandness in architecture, so much beauty, really. Moving on the other end, to the outskirts of Vienna, one of my absolute favorites are also the vineyards of Vienna. Vienna is the only capital in the world which produces its own excellent, high-quality wine, and that's only about 30-40 minutes away from city center. Quite a special place to go to, enjoy the views over the city, all while enjoying a good glass of Viennese wine. So traditionally we can say Vienna has developed quite some fame as a historical, as a classical city. Lots of history, classical architecture, classical music. However, let's not forget that Vienna is also a very contemporary city, and we do find that visitors to Vienna, they're also more and more curious about exploring this new, this modern, this contemporary side of Vienna. Luckily, there's lots the city has got to offer them. Vienna is home to more than 100 contemporary art galleries. There's a whole range of festivals that are focused on contemporary art. Famous example, the Vienna Design Week. There are interesting new developments like the MuseumsQuartier, for instance, which is actually home to the Museum of Modern Arts of Vienna. There's also the Anker Bread Factory, which is an ancient building that was rebuilt into a modern art space that is nowadays home to galleries, quite cutting-edge galleries, and which also hosts very interesting events attracting a crowd of people working in or interested in contemporary art. One day in Vienna is really very little time, so we need to make sure you make the most of that. I'd say you start out in the very city center, first district. You take a bit of time to maybe walk off the busier streets and get lost a bit, let yourself get lost a bit in the tiny streets, in some of the medieval streets, where you can really breathe, feel the history of Vienna. As you cross through the first district, city center, you will eventually get to the Ringstraße, which is a huge boulevard that circles all the first districts. It's around 5 kilometers long, so even if you don't do the full circle, you might just take a bit of a stroll, because that will show you how Vienna about 150 years ago really opened itself up when the Ringstraße was completed, when the old city walls were turned down, and when we saw the creation of this fantastic boulevard that is now the still famous, still popular Ringstraße. Still on the Ringstraße, you might want to have a typical Viennese sausage snack. So that is a fairly casual lunch, I will admit, but it will get you the chance to hang out for a moment with some local Viennese people, maybe also strike up a quick conversation, just get a bit of a feel what Vienna living could be all about. After you turn the Ringstraße, you leave the Ringstraße and go towards outside the Ringstraße, so that will bring you to an interesting circle of districts such as the 5th or the 6th or the 7th district, which are quite interesting, lively areas that very much represent modern, contemporary, creative Vienna. So do look around in the little streets there, look for some interesting small shops, maybe go see an art gallery, and you will really get an impression of what today's Vienna, modern Vienna, is all about. So, after all this walking and all this exploring, you really deserve a little break, so you might want to head for one of more than 850 parks that are to be found in Vienna. So there's lots of green space, there's many places where you can just chill, take a break, reflect on what all you have seen in the city. And as the day comes to an end, you absolutely must go and find some music. Be it at one of the free festivals that take place during the summertime, be it by going to the opera or see one of the musicals in Vienna, bearing in mind also many of the theaters, many of the stages have great last-minute options where you can go see a great show, world-class music for very little money, and that I think makes for a beautiful end of your day in Vienna. In my very personal opinion, there's just so much that we can learn from art, so much that art has taught me personally. Obviously, some of the greatest paintings in the world, they show ancient life, they show the history of your own country or of the whole world. So there's a good insight into history that we can get by admiring some art. At the same time, art for me also is variety. It's about choice, it's about many different directions, and it's about tolerance. You might not understand everything, you might not like everything, but I think everyone should be able to accept different things, accept that there will always be a variety, and understand that this is actually a great thing.